Hi, my name is Melanie. I'm an assistant professor of chemistry at Cal State Channel Islands.
You could go back and give some advice to your undergraduate self. What would you say?
I think that the only thing I would change maybe is that I didn't realize that all the classes in chemistry specifically build on top of each other. So maybe my first year or two, I didn't try to commit that knowledge to as deep a memory as I could have. And so then it becomes easier and easier as you move up in chemistry to recall the knowledge. But maybe I would have tried to work a little harder at committing it to long-term memory earlier.
How can STEM students make the most of their CI undergraduate experience?
There are a lot of opportunities at CI for STEM. We have multiple different majors. We also have a STEM center on campus in El Dorado Hall. They have a lot of different resources. We have a chemistry club. We have tutors. We have a peer-led team learning team where students who have already taken that class can meet once a week with students that are currently in the class to help tutor. There are many, many opportunities. You can do undergraduate research where you actually get into a research lab, do independent studies to learn new things, go to conferences and present your results. So many things you can do.
And what are 3 strategies a student can implement to ensure their academic success at CI?
I think absolutely make use of the STEM Center. I already mentioned that. We have the STEM Center. They have computers with chemistry software or Microsoft Excel. But on top of just having the resources there, they have tutors that help you with that, and they have staff members that can help as well. So that's definitely one thing that you should do. You should absolutely do undergraduate research. It really increases and deepens the knowledge that you've learned in your classes. And I guess the third thing that students definitely don't make the most of here is actually going to talk to the professors outside of class. Go to office hours. Make sure you ask questions so that you understand what your responsibilities are, that you're meeting those responsibilities and the goals and what you need to learn from that class.
What adversities did you face as an undergraduate student, and how did you handle them?
I went to high school in a rural area in the country, and I wasn't adequately prepared, I guess, for college. I didn't really understand the system. And so we did have AP classes in my high school. We had a couple, but I didn't understand what AP meant, advanced placement meant. People said, oh, you get credit for college class, like history. And I was like, I don't like history. Why would I want to get credit for history in college? I didn't realize you have to take history in college. Therefore, if you got credit from it from your high school class, then you could take more chemistry classes, for instance. And so I think that just getting to the level where I needed to be at, it was a little challenging. I had to catch up. I had to learn a lot. But luckily, I surrounded myself with really good students who didn't mind helping out.
What are the less known career opportunities that are available with a STEM degree?
Less known career opportunities. Well, so I guess let's talk about the most obvious ones. You can be a scientist in a lab, for instance. You can work at Amgen, or you can work at some pharmaceutical company, or be a teacher. The less known ones are, you can be a pharmacist, you can be anything really with a STEM degree. You can go into finance, you can become a lawyer, a patent lawyer. There's so many opportunities because if you have a foundation of chemistry or physics or math, you can do anything, you can apply that to anything.
Why is research important to academic development as an undergrad?
Independent research is critical for your academic development because you're learning all these concepts in your class. But sometimes, they're way up here and you don't really know how does that apply in real life until you get into the lab and you have to make your own decision of what experiment am I going to do and what do the results mean.
As an undergraduate student, did you have any other techniques that helped you pass your STEM classes?
Studied all the time. I carried my books everywhere with me. All the time I studied. So, I did have fun on Friday nights, I think. But then 8 a.m. Saturday, I was back in the library. I think that one thing I can say is I did surround myself with the best students in the class. That's who I hung out with. I found the smartest students in the class, and I said, hey, what are you going to study? Okay, I'll be there. And that peer group really helped give me confidence and helped give me context. And I think that if you find more engaged students or people who have taken that class before, why don't you ask for advice and help, right? I mean, just work hard. It's a demanding degree. You're going to have to work hard. So just work hard. Keep trying.
Was there any experience that you had that was really meaningful to you? Anything you can specifically think of during that time?
A meaningful research experience? I think it all was. To be honest, it meant so much to me that I got to go into this lab and use these really expensive pieces of equipment or instruments. I think that just having the trust there from your faculty advisor that your data are accepted as truth, right? And that you did the experiment correctly, and that you got to go use the $1 million NMR and do these fancy experiments on it, and they believe in you, and getting to go to conferences. I grew up in North Carolina, but I got to go to a conference in San Diego when I was an undergraduate, and that's incredibly meaningful that you get to go and see all these other people, scientists presenting their work. And that's also an expensive thing, right? You know, it's how much hundreds of dollars flight plus the registration. That's a lot of money that professor invested in me to go learn, really.
And what do you find most rewarding about your work?
My work right now? Well, I have quite a few things that I do right now in my daily life. As a professor here, we do teaching and service and research. So I would say that there's very important things, rewarding things in each aspect of that. But in teaching, I love to see the students learn. That's the absolute most rewarding thing, is getting to see the students learn and grow. And so where you start at the beginning of the semester and where you get to at the end of the semester, and to say, hey, they know this now and they didn't know it before, and hopefully they know it at a depth that they can take it with them forever and have perspective. But then in research, I get to do some incredibly interesting things in research, and it's awesome to be an independent researcher because you get to follow where your interests lie, and so that's extremely rewarding.
Can you tell us briefly how you decided on becoming a professor here at CI?
I ended up being a chemist. I just fell into it. I said, hey, this class, I like this chemistry class. I like this chemistry class. Wow. And I just kept going all the way up. How did I end up being a professor here at CI? I started teaching, so I did a Doctor of Philosophy, in a PhD in chemistry, and I had the opportunity after that to teach at Occidental College, and I loved that. I loved the teaching experience. And so I said, you know what, I do love doing research, but I also want that teaching component. I want to be able to do everything. I don't want to give up the teaching part. And so if I had taken a job at Amgen or at any other pharma company, it would be really hard to get that teaching. You'd have to do it at night, or do an online course or something. You'd have to work really hard to be able to have the teaching component. And so I decided to apply to faculty positions, and I wanted to stay in the Los Angeles area, and I was lucky that there was a position open here.
How important has mentorship been in your career?
Mentorship is incredibly important in STEM. It's incredibly important. And I do want to take the opportunity to say that there's all kinds of different mentorship. There is like silent mentorship, where maybe that person doesn't even know you exist, but you see them as a mentor. You follow what they're doing. You say, hey, wow, that's what that person did at this point in their life. For instance, my silent mentor, who didn't ever know I existed, was Mildred Jesselhouse. She was a professor at MIT. She passed away recently. But she's incredibly smart, and she had 5 children. And she was a professor at MIT in chemical engineering. And she's amazingly talented. And I just look at how she got there. And so that's one form of mentorship. But then you have like maybe your research advisor who has invested this time and effort and money in developing your career, and writes letters of recommendation for you and helps to determine, oh, you should maybe go to this grad school, or don't forget that this is important. You know, spend time developing this part, or you know, gives you more hands-on mentorship. There's also mentorship from your peers, and that was incredibly important. I had 2 peers who absolutely, I would say, shaped my career. I think that a lot of times I assumed that people weren't interested in working with me, and that maybe I let other opportunities go that could have been really meaningful.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.